Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Christine Sauer here. If you've been struggling with depression symptoms, if you're feeling emotionally exhausted, numb, unmotivated, or wondering, why do I feel this way? Why isn't treatment helping? Could there be something deeper going on? Then this video is for you. Because one of the biggest misunderstanding about depression is the idea that it is just one thing. In reality, depression is most often much more complex. And for some people, it may involve brain chemistry. For others, chronic stress. For again others, inflammation, burnout, trauma, poor sleep, hormones, gut health issues, nutrient deficiencies, medication side effects, or several things at the same time. And that's important to understand because, when we oversimplify depression, people often feel frustrated, they feel hopeless, or like they are somehow failing when they don't improve quickly enough. So today, I want to give you a broader, more compassionate brain, body, mind perspective on depression and on emotional health. Not to overwhelm you, not to diagnose you, but to help you to start asking better questions. And please remember, this video is educational only and not medical advice. If you are severely struggling or having thoughts of self-harm, please seek immediate professional support. Because one thing that I've learned over many decades in healthcare is this. Depression does not look the same in everyone. Some people feel sadness, and they may or may not show the deep sadness if they feel it. But many people don't. And sometimes depression feels more like this: emotional numbness, exhaustion, brain fog, irritability, overwhelm, shutdown, or loss of motivation. Or some are feeling simply disconnected from life, like they are all alone. So many people are surprised to learn also that depression can feel very physical. You may feel just tired all the time. Your body may ache and hurt. You may have headaches or backaches that can't be explained. Your sleep may be disrupted. You may have digestive symptoms and your stomach pains. You may feel heavy, inflamed, foggy, or you may just not feel at all. And this is one reason why I believe we need a much broader conversation about depression and brain health. Because the brain is not separate from the body. Everything is connected. Your nervous system, your hormones, your gut, your sleep, your stress levels, your inflammation levels, your relationships, your environment, even your food. All of these interact with each other in a very complex and complicated way. And sometimes depression symptoms are the nervous system's way of saying something is not sustainable anymore. We need to change things. Now, I want to be careful here. Brain chemistry absolutely matters. Neurotransmitters matter. Medication can absolutely help some people. But the old idea that depression is simply caused by one thing, like low serotonin or similar buzzwords, is much too simplistic because individuals, human beings, are far more complex than that. Two people can both receive the diagnosis of depression while having very different root contributors. For example, for one person, it may follow trauma. For another, it may follow burnout and nervous system overload. For another again, it comes down to chronic inflammation or autoimmune issues. For the next person, it may be sleep apnea or hormonal imbalance. And then there, of course, are grief, isolation, emotional exhaustion, and so many other reasons. And this is why some people improve quickly and others continue struggling, despite trying many things. Because, sometimes some of the deeper contributors have not yet been identified. And now that does not mean that the struggle is all in your head. You're not imagining this. I believe one of the biggest hidden contributors today is chronic stress and nervous system overload. Modern life is incredibly overstimulating. You know, as humans, we are never designed for constant notifications and interruptions. Endless bad news, frequent changes and uncertainty, too little and poor sleep, digital overload, non-stop social comparisons, unrelenting emotional pressure at work and in life. And the resulting chronic overwhelm is very real. But when stress becomes chronic, the nervous system can get stuck in survival mode. And you know what? Over time, this affects the brain deeply. It causes stress, anxiety, depression. Just look at this. Stress hormones like cortisol affect sleep, mood, inflammation, memory, concentration, energy, immune system, emotional regulation, and many more. And if stress lasts, this can become just too much for some. And eventually, some people stop feeling anxious or overwhelmed and start feeling shut down, almost emotional, exhausted, burned out. Like the nervous system simply does not have capacity anymore. And this is why burnout and depression can overlap so much. And honestly, I think that it is not fair to label so many people today as lazy or unmotivated when they feel down. And of course, the worst thing is when you do it to yourself, right? I really think that many people today are truly, deeply overwhelmed. Now, let's talk here about something very important, about physical contributors to depression symptoms, because this is still an area that is often overlooked. Again, not every case of depression, I don't like the word case, not every person who feels depressed has a physical cause. But sometimes physical health issues contribute significantly. For example, nutrient deficiencies like low B12, iron deficiency, low vitamin D, magnesium deficiency, and many, many others, and often combined. And of course, if you have a terminal disease or a severe disease sets on, you can feel depressed from the grief and the loss of your health. Now, all these can affect energy production, nervous system function, sleep, and mood. And then there are hormonal imbalances. thyroid issues, menopause, low testosterone, chronic cortisol dysregulation. That's just a few hormones that are commonly mentioned, because hormones strongly influence brain function and emotional health. Now let's talk sleep problems. Sleep is foundational for emotional regulation, and many people underestimate how much poor sleep affects mental health. Chronic insomnia, sleep apnea, disrupted sleep cycles, and all of these can worsen depression symptoms. Let's mention the butterflies in your stomach too, because you really don't want them fluttering around all the time, right, and upsetting your tummy. You want to train your butterflies to fly calmly and in proper formation. Excuse my English. Okay, you got it. I'm talking about gut health and inflammation that often go along with each other because the gut and the brain are deeply connected. In fact, the gut is sometimes called the second brain. There's more and more emerging research that clearly suggests and confirms that inflammation and gut health influence mood, stress, stress response, and neurotransmitter production. And in my own work over many, many years, I've seen how improving overall health foundations sometimes improves emotional well-being too. Then, of course, there are the medication side effects, because some medications may contribute to low mood in certain people. I've experienced it myself. Now, here's a caveat: never stop medications suddenly without asking your doctor. Never do that. It's not helpful and can be harmful, can really be harmful. But it is important to recognize that medication induced depression can happen. Just one more thing to think about, right? But you also know that depression is not only biological. Life matters too. The work of being human matters too. Trauma matters. Loss matters. Thoughts matter. Relationships matter. Meaning and purpose matter. The existential questions. And emotional exhaustion is real, and it can reflect on the body and spirit. Many people silently carry feelings like perfectionism, shame, unresolved grief, loneliness, chronic pressure, caregiving stress, financial stress, emotional suppression. And your nervous system will eventually say, enough, I can't keep doing this. You may have read the book When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate. I was blessed to experience his presentation when he visited my current hometown, Halifax, in Nova Scotia last year. Because books, bibliotherapy, are a valuable source of inspiration and learning. I myself use audiobooks a lot and listen to them whenever I do something that does not need my full attention, like cleaning, dishes, and such. And of course, when I need a picker-upper, inspiration, food for thought, or can't sleep at night. Not only your gut needs nourishment, your brain and mind needs food too. Don't forget to include food for thought. And lifestyle also matters more than many people realize. Things like social isolation. Humans need social connections to thrive. A sedentary lifestyle, as our body is made to move. Then there are ultra-processed foods, lack of sunlight, because we are indoors all the time, chronic uncertainty and changes, of course, the digital overload, and then often a lack of purpose. These all and many more can gradually affect and erode emotional health. Again, this is not about blame. It's about understanding complexity. And one of the hardest experiences is when someone tries treatment and still feels stuck. When the dark night of the soul won't go away or keeps coming back. Because treatment resistant depression is incredibly frustrating. And it can be so painful that people are willing to try extreme approaches like ECT, brain surgery, implants, or cold water baths, trips on mind altering drugs, and so much more. Now, I'm not saying that they can never be helpful. They can. But the more invasive a procedure, the more irreversible, the more dangerous, the more potential side effects, the more caution should be used. And why not exhaust all the other options first, the ones that you may call natural? Don't dismiss them as inefficient, because natural approaches are not necessarily worse in effect, and often, in the long term, can help a lot, especially when properly approached and when these natural approaches are combined, sometimes with so-called conventional approaches like medications and good psychotherapy and spiritual counseling. And sometimes the reason why recovery stalls is because important root contributors remain unaddressed. Maybe sleep is still severely disrupted. Maybe inflammation remains high in spite of all attempts to suppress it. Maybe the nervous system is still overloaded. Maybe trauma has not been processed and healed. Maybe medications need re-evaluation. Maybe the body's just too exhausted. And this is exactly why I believe that healing often requires a broader and more individualized perspective. Not one size fits all care, not oversimplification, and definitely not shame. So if you take away one thing from today's video, let it be this. Depression is a word. It's just a label for a package of symptoms, a sign that there's smoke, nothing more. But depression is often not just one thing. It often does not just have one cause, and often not just one treatment, because it's often a complex interaction between the brain, the body, the nervous system, life experiences, stress load, physical health, environment, and emotional well-being, and a few others. And you know what? Asking deeper questions is not weakness. It is a wisdom. Please remember, you are not broken, and you are not failing because your experience is complex. Healing is rarely linear. And if this video today helped you better understand the possible root causes of depression, I'd love for you to leave a comment below and let me know what resonated most with you. And if you'd like more evidence-informed, compassionate conversations about brain health, stress, nervous system regulation, gut health, and emotional well-being, make sure to subscribe and visit my website at dochristine.com. You can read more about this at the link around this video. So please take care of yourself, be your own best friend, and I'll see you in the next video.